News Talk STL.
You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. And don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open Napoli Kirkwood.
News Talk STL. This hour of the Allman Report brought to you by STL Fenceworks, celebrating 50 years of industry-leading service for fence, deck, and leisure space solutions. Visit stlfenceworks.com. You're listening to the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please. Don't fence me in. Don't fence me in. Just turn me loose, let me straddle my own saddle underneath the western skies. On my cayuse, let me wander over yonder till I see the mountains rise. I want to ride to the ridge where the west commences. Gaze at the moon until I lose my senses. I can't look at hobbles and I can't stand fences. Don't fence me in. Don't fence me in.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Tuesday to all of you and yours. This is the Allman Report, News Talk STL. Jamie Allman, really pleased to be with you. Stel Ponticus over there. And before we get to the latest news, I'm going to go back in time, like I did yesterday, to my childhood and how things kind of start to roost you. I told you the story about the world-famous Drunk Fest with Dick Ford and Julius Hunter and Karen Foss, and this is something that goes way back, because, I used to watch those guys right around the time I was like 9 or 10 or whatever. And I also was really heavily politically active for some reason. I think it's because my dad was, and in Republican politics mostly. And so, much like I was watching Julius Hunter and Dick Ford when I was a kid, I was also really plugged into the news and the people and everything else. And so on the side of my house at 7324 Cornell, I built a fort. That was the coolest damn fort, I'm telling you. It had some carpet remnants as the floor, and I had the boards. But because I wasn't particularly handy with a hammer and a nail, I had to use bumper stickers and political stickers to keep the boards together. And that's when I started learning all about John Ashcroft and Dowd and Kit Bond and I can't remember Hearns and all these people. And that's what my fort looked like, a bunch of political bumper stickers that had, some of Missouri's most famous names on them. And then fast forward to my career in TV and everything else. And then suddenly I'm talking to Kit Bond, Senator Kit Bond, one of the coolest guys, former governor, of course, as well as Attorney General, I think, and going up to his office in the U.S. Senate in Washington, D.C., and sitting there with this guy who I've known him since I was a kid, basically, except it was basically through a bumper sticker I knew him most. And then suddenly I'm sitting there rubbing shoulders with him, and it's like kind of really awe-inspiring. And so since that time, of course, Kit Bond's always been just one of the greatest guys, fun to interview. He was a happy-go-lucky guy who had a gigantic cigar and never passed up a martini, which is why he'd be great on this show with the 3-martini lunch. And we hear just, within the hour that Senator Kit Bond has died at the age of 86. And so it's timely, of course, that we have another senator who knew Kit Bond very well, I'm sure, as well as, Eagleton, because it was Eagleton and Bond kind of were the rock star senators there for a while. And Senator Talent is on the line with me, and Senator Jim Talent, who is taking time away from having his grandkids at the park to share just some thoughts and that kind of thing. And I know you have, I'm sure, fond memories of Senator Bond yourself, my friend.
Yeah, Jamie, I've been thinking about it since I got the news. So Kit was part of the generation just before me in Missouri politics, or I guess you might call it like the age cohort just before me. It probably wasn't quite a generation. So I missed him in Jefferson City. He had just finished being governor and was running for the Senate. I worked with him when I was in the House because he chaired the Senate Small Business Committee and I chaired the House Small Business Committee at the same time. So we had a lot of projects together at that time. And then, of course, I got to serve with him in the Senate. He was a deeply human guy, which I think came across to the voters. I mean, very authentic at a time when not everybody was in politics. Now there's more of a premium on that, at least appearing authentic, right?
Yeah.
It's not a contradiction in terms. He had a passion for solving problems that were hurting the people. And this people didn't realize about him as quickly because Kit liked to come across as the gentleman farmer from mid-Missouri.
Yeah.
He had a brilliant intellect and a relentless intelligence. I mean, his ability to absorb issues and understand them quickly, it was just very impressive. A lot of people don't know or don't remember, Kit was the vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which means he was the ranking Republican at the time, and he really followed all those issues, knew them so well. Now, I could ramble on a long time about Kit, even though, he and I were not contemporaries. I wasn't as close a friend to him as, say, I'm sure. Roy called me and I was on the phone. I couldn't take it. I know Roy is deeply grieving on a personal level. I miss him as a mentor, as an example. And I have to say, with all due respect to those men, I don't think anybody's had a greater impact on the state of Missouri in terms of public affairs in the last 50 years than Kit Bond.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe also you mentioned Roy Blunt. I believe Catherine Hanaway wasn't she on his staff at one point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the ways he had such an impact was, and he was very conscious of this, was getting really good young people into public affairs or politics by helping him in his campaigns or being on his staff or just people he would mentor.
Yeah.
He mentored me in the Senate. I mean, he was always available when I wanted to talk or ask questions. He mentioned the cigar because that was usually present. And, and I would go over to his office. He was a senior senator, so I'd go over to see him. And we'd sit there and talk about what he was doing on appropriations. And if there was something, I wanted done there, Kit was a master appropriator. And the other thing about Kit, a lot of governors end up in the Senate. And I would say many, if not most of them, don't like it and don't do very well because they're used to being the number one person because that's what they were as governor. And the Senate, you got to learn how to be more collegial. And Kit just made that. I mean, he crossed that divide so quickly. Everybody really liked him and respected him. And that's still important, Jamie.
Yeah, before I get to that part of it, because I do remember when I told the story as a kid, I remember as a kid, I was really super impressed because he was the youngest governor, right, ever elected, correct? He was,
he'd been the auditor.
Yeah.
And he was elected auditor, which, as you know, is the one statewide office that we elect in the off year, in the non-presidential year. So he was in the middle of his first term and ran for governor and won. And, this is kind of, it's most people wouldn't be too interested by this, but he really updated state government, and he passed a major reorganization bill with a legislature that's very solidly Democratic. And it made a big difference, kind of dragged Missouri into the 20th century, 70 years into the century. Had an enormous impact, and then lost in 1976 in a surprise, and learned from his mistakes and came back and won in 1980, which I can tell you is not easy. I've been through that myself.
Yeah.
So a great statesman, and all of us who knew him are sort of reflecting on our experiences with him.
Well,
and I remember once, if you want a Kit Bond story, I don't know what to do. You may have other things you want to ask about.
No.
But I when I was in the House in the 90s, I had a fundraiser at a club, and Kit would be kind enough, if you'd call him up, to come by, and which of course enhanced the appeal of your event because people got to see Senator Bond. So he comes by, and I go over and say hi to him. And the waiter comes over and asks him what he'd like, and he said, I'll take a Budweiser.
Huh.
And the fellow says, well, we have Miller beer here. And he said, you mean you don't serve Anheuser-Busch products? And I was like frozen in fear because I didn't know that. And he said, no, we don't. So Kit said, I'll take a white wine.
Instead of a Miller. Oh, wow. That is
he was
crazy.
He was not going to have anybody take a photo of him with the Miller. Now, this was in the days when Anheuser-Busch actually owned Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you remember what August Bush well enough to know what he would have thought of that.
So,
yeah. Plus, which Missouri's. When we think about Missouri beer, you think about Anheuser-Busch. So that's the last time I had an event in that club. I can tell you that. So.
Well, and he really was exceedingly loyal to this state and really took a lot of pride in Missouri and representing it. And what's interesting too, because you go back to his collegiality. And by the way, also, as a reporter, the one thing I noticed whenever we, would track him down or want to comment from him or something like that, his staff, well, as you point out, were some of the nicest people that I've ever run into as a reporter, journalist dealing with politicians. And to your point about him mentoring and bringing people up, you know what it's like when you go into a restaurant, you go to some place and the staff is all happy. You can tell they're well taken care of. And so I don't think there's any doubt that Senator Bond really cared deeply about not only the younger politicians he was mentoring, but also his staff, which is really cool.
And that's the reason they were and remain so loyal to him through the years. And this is not as common as I would like it to be.
Yeah.
Where somebody is a good example, a mentor, and that loyalty, goes both ways. Kit was very much that way. And as I said, maybe his greatest contribution, just the people he brought in. When he went to Jefferson City as governor, he brought an extraordinary group of people with him who were very competent and very honest. And I don't want to sound partisan here, but after decades and decades of one-party rule in Jefferson City, that was a problem. And, Kit turned that around really fast and was always very careful about those kinds of things, as you need to be. So, he's been ill for a while, so I can't say this is a surprise. We've all from time to time been thinking about it. But it's he was a great figure. Knew when to leave. When he felt like he didn't have the same level of energy, couldn't do the job as well. He left, and that's what I would have expected from Kit, to do the right thing all the way down the line.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that is true. And I got to tell you, when it comes to another world famous kind of element of collegiality was the teaming of Bond and Eagleton, who were basically an item together. Eagleton being obviously a Democrat, but those were the days when I think it was a little bit calmer in terms of the two parties.
Yeah, not only that, Kit was famous for being able to work across the lines, but nobody ever, in our party, ever accused him of being a sellout, because he was loyal. He rode for the brand. We used to talk about that's an old cowboy expression, But sure, he worked. Congressman Cleaver, when he was mayor of Kansas City, was famous for working with Kit on many things that benefited that region of the state, and had a big impact in that way.
Yeah, and I think that they just kind of, I think sometimes even they went on tour together or something. I seem to remember that sometimes they appeared together at events and things like that. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think the congressman may have actually, here my memory's failing me, but I think he may have actually endorsed Kit in one of his races because he did so much for Kansas City. And Cleaver's very good in that respect too. He's been a good congressman. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but he cares about the city, and he and Kit shared that. Kit always considered himself, he represented the whole state a lot for St. Louis too, as everybody here knows. But Kansas City, of the two big cities, that's the one he was, closest to personally, and they loved him there.
Yeah, and I know he helped Boeing quite a bit on a number of different levels.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned 1976, and that rang a bell because I remember that. So 1976, I was 13 years old, and I do remember that Senate race that actually wound up, I think, with Danforth winning that Senate seat in 1976.
Yeah. That's because...
Spainhauer.
Now I'm having a senior moment. Jerry
Spainhauer. Oh, Jerry Litton. You're talking about Jerry Litton who died in the plane crash. Yeah.
Plane crash. We've had some terrible plane crashes in Missouri politics. And so Jack won the Senate seat. Kit narrowly lost to Walking Joe Teasdale.
Yep, I remember Walking Joe. Yes, sir.
And came back in 1980 and Kit won that race and never lost another one. And we used to talk about that because, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger in politics. So if you lose a race and actually learn some lessons from it, then you can come back, stronger. Because the people, a lot of people think they take politics personally. I don't think most voters do.
No.
I never thought that when they elected me to something, it was because they thought I was personally so fantastic. And if they didn't, that they thought I was personally so terrible. They were making a choice for who could do the best for their families and their communities. And they didn't mind if you wanted to try again. They're willing to consider you.
Yeah.
In fact, most major politicians in Missouri, at least in those days, lost the race, Republican or Democrat.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well, and also I think the Trump vote this time around did indeed prove that there are a lot of people who can go either way. Sometimes they're really looking at the person and the issues and things like that matter most to their families. And so as much as Republicans and Democrats try to kind of create this tribal type of warfare sometimes, the fact of the matter is most people are not centrist, but they do vote based on how they feel that person's going to help their family or their jobs or what have you.
Oh, sure. I've always found voters, even those who weren't open to voting for me, like when I would go door to door, 1 out of 100 people, might be a little rude. Most people absolutely fine. Although when we talk about politics in Missouri, Jamie, we've got to kind of divide it into the pre-Trump era and the post-Trump era, because President Trump, I think, has changed for the foreseeable future. Not the voters' attitude towards politics, but the politics. I mean, the state, when I was running and Kit was running, it was a real swing state, and I just don't think you can say that about Missouri anymore. Now, it could change, if people stop delivering for the voters, they'll change. But for now, Trump has made this a pretty Republican state.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting to see that, and I think we've been pretty lucky in Missouri. Back to Kit Bond, to have the kind of stock that we've had with even some Democrats in terms of national office and beyond. No one's really gone to jail, which is kind of nice. Yeah. I mean, everybody's been pretty strong and necessarily sometimes even controversy or scandal free, and a lot of names hold up throughout the decades of people who served the state at the congressional and Senate level. So pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true. And that generation of Kits lasted a long time. Ashcroft, Roy Blunt. Now, we've handed it to the next group, and we have some outstanding people there too. I mean, Claire McCaskill's not running anymore, and we all knew each other, and pretty well, generally speaking, over the years. But we've got Josh Hawley and Eric Schmidt now, and on the Senate level, and Mike Kehoe, who was a great supporter of mine when I ran for governor in 2000. So we have connections, but this is a new group, and it's for a new era.
Yeah.
And they're navigating their way now. And I think a lot of them, I agree with you that I think generally speaking, the politicians on both parties have been, pretty straight in terms of how they've conducted, at least, as you say, at least none of them have gone to jail. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can compare it to Illinois, and it's
exactly.
Gee
I'll
whiz.
say that.
Yeah, right across the river there. That is for okay. And then one final thing though, before we have to go, because I've been dying to talk to you about this, because obviously you're plugged into the Defense Department and other kind of issues like this. So this Qatar plane, all right, it turns out that it really is not that big of a deal. I mean, I know they're trying to kind of link Qatar to terrorism, whatever, even though we have a friggin' air base in Qatar. But what is your overall opinion about all that?
Well, we're getting a plane. We're going to have to pay for the modifications of it. But a couple of things. Now, first of all, this is a gift to the Department of Defense, not to President Trump.
Yeah.
All the initial hyperbolic reactions turned out to be wrong.
Yes.
I'll make two comments that are relevant also to the trip the president's on. Number one is he really looks for opportunities to benefit the United States with good deals, and he's very wide-ranging in the way he looks. And so if we get a plane for free or for a much reduced cost, that's the kind of thing Trump likes. I don't have any problem with that. I mean, that's money we don't have to spend while we're trying to cover it while Boeing comes up with the plane. The second thing is you got to understand the Middle East, and you're seeing this in this trip today. It's a very personalized place. Okay, so the Qataris doing this is sending a message beyond just the plane. Now, do I like the Qataris support? They do. They support radical Islam, but every president deals with them. They're also the conduit through which we send messages to places like Iran and work out hostage deals. So it's a complicated relationship, and the president has to manage it like all presidents before him. And I saw it in that context. I don't have any problem with it. I really don't.
Yeah.
You're going to see the president announce, he already is, a lot of good deals coming out of the Middle East. And this is occurring against the backdrop of the coalition he's trying to build with the Gulf states, Jordan, Israel, Egypt, to deal with a number of issues, Gaza, of course, the Iranians and that nuclear facility, and then also what happens in Syria. And that would be worth a whole interview if you want to have it sometime, because
Yeah.
we don't want Syria to emerge from the Assad era and in its own way be as big a threat. And I think the president's trying to manage that too.
Yeah, and I think he really did lay the groundwork there a long time ago in terms of his relationship in the Middle East when he gave that just wonderful speech to the Arab world. It was one of my favorite speeches that he's ever given, aside from the one in Poland and a couple of other ones. But very impactful. I think they know him. I think they respect him because he came to in there. I think it was in 2016 or 17, and he respected them. And it was a really great dynamic, I think, that has lived on in the minds of many people in the Arab world.
I think Donald Trump understands, in particular, the Middle East better than any other president in my time in politics. I really do. He understands how to maneuver there. That's how he got the Abraham Accords. I am very confident of his dealings there and confident of his dealings around the world. I think he knows what he's doing. And I'm prepared. Now, look, I mean, he's the president. His name's on the door. If he tries, some policy and it doesn't work, he's going to have to bear up under the criticism. But I'm willing to give him a lot of rope because he's shown he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just can't work themselves around to that, which is unfortunate.
And I guess, are we sure, and maybe President Trump didn't even realize it, but are we sure that he didn't accidentally comment and compliment the Qatari airplane? Because apparently in the Middle East, if you compliment something that an Arab has, they have to give it to you.
I doubt it.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Obviously, I know you're kidding.
Yeah.
But, you do have to understand or at least be able to accommodate yourself to the way business is done. And Jamie, I'll just add one thing, and I know you got to go, and I do too. I'm still on grandpa duty here.
I know, yeah, I can hear it.
You notice how he sent his son-in-law, Kushner, over there in the first term?
Yeah.
First time I saw that, I thought, well, now that's amateurish. And then I was talking to somebody who really does understand the Middle East, and he says, that's how they do, that's how you show you're serious in that part of the world. And look at the kingdom where he is now. Everybody of consequence is related. They're all in the same family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you see, so when you send your son-in-law, what you're saying is, I'm serious about the message this guy's carrying.
Yeah. Right. Interesting. That's a great cultural note there. Senator Jim Talent, thank you so much for taking time while you're out at the playground, but we really appreciate your insights and your reminiscence and appreciate it so much.
Okay, Jamie.
Okay, buddy. That is Senator Jim Talent, who is basically at a playground, Falls Park, with his grandkids, and is kind enough to take some time out. So, yeah, the Kit Bond did at the age of 86, and it really is interesting. I really have a lot of great memories. I think we've got a pretty good stock of politicians coming out of Missouri. I think there's a lot to be proud of, and certainly Kit Bond was a great guy. So we will mourn his passing. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here. Happy to be with you.
Time to redefine me. Let the word out. I got to get out. Oh, I'm feeling better now. Breaking news out. I got to get out. Oh, I'm feeling better now. Oh, I'm happy as Christmas. All wrapped to be seen.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app
Love the all-new app.
and listen anytime, anywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we had another day of rain, and it's St. Louis. It's crazy. And, of course, all kinds of car accidents, of course. For some reason, whatever happens with the rain, it hits the windshield of people, and then their brakes automatically slam on. So I don't know what kind of technology that is, but whatever. Also, yes, it floods basements, and it gets stuff that you don't want wet. And it creates anxiety because you are at home or work or something, and it's raining, and all you can think about is what your evening's going to be, an evening of wet vacking. of squeegeeing or doing whatever, of just basically being miserable with a flooded basement. Do not fret anymore. JamieLovesWoods.com is your ticket to all things basementy and to a dry basement, a waterproof basement, and a foundation that you can count on to maintain the value of your home. I'll tell you what, Dave Thompson and the rest of the gang, I've used them on a couple of occasions in 2 different houses, and they do such a great job making sure that those cracks are taken care of, making sure that everything is waterproofed. And if you need a sump pump installed, they do that too. They're just great at what they do. And long term, this is very important. Like to tell you the stories about how, even when I'm selling houses and showing houses, and when some people go down into the basement after loving every other aspect of the house and they see signs of water, they are out. And so if you're ever trying to sell your home again, the fact of the matter is, it's not only giving you peace of mind, it's maintaining a good value for your home. It's Woods Basement Systems, all things basementy. Just go to JamieLovesWoods.com. That's JamieLovesWoods.com.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Tim Jones here for Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. They've helped me recover from day-to-day aches and pains for years. And here's something special, personal training programs. Whether you're an athlete committed to increasing performance, recovering from an injury, or just want to get healthier and lose weight, their personal training programs will help you reach your goals and stay there. Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, online at cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com.
Hey, it's Vic, and I'm here with Kathy Connor at Connor Roofing. Kathy, what makes Connor Roofing different?
Hey, Vic. I'm glad that you asked. I think that what really sets Connor Roofing apart is our relationship with our customers. It's very important to us to develop that trust with the homeowner. This is what has allowed us to serve our friends and our neighbors in the St. Louis area for 30 years. Whether we are doing a roof or a gutter repair or even a full replacement, you can count on Connor for quality service and workmanship.
Thanks, Kathy. To find out more, visit them at connorroofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty. The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here. Stel Ponticus over there. Stel, when did you come to St. Louis? When did you arrive?
Fall of 1970.
Fall of 1970. The boat carrying Stel Ponticus and all of his relatives landed on the shores of the Mississippi River.
Came down from Chicago.
Yeah. 1970.
Yeah, fall of 70 for my freshman year at St. Louis U.
Wow, so long. So you remember all that stuff we were just talking about.
Oh, yes, definitely.
That's great.
Yeah, some great memories there. And also with Kathy's dad, Tom Boland from Hannibal, being involved in politics in the northeastern part of the state.
Yeah.
And he worked with Kit and all the rest of the governors. Dad was on the Missouri Highway Department. Mike Keogh knows him well from those years. So there was those were interesting days, interesting times. And you're right. A lot of that stuff that Jim shared was very familiar to me.
Yeah. I one of the things about Kit Bond, which I respected a lot, is Kit Bond didn't always do a whole lot of interviews. You kind of had to really catch up to him, but he really generally didn't like doing a lot of interviews and things like that. He would, but he just didn't do a lot of interviews. So my interactions with him are usually at events or what have you, or I'd see him walking out of an event or doing whatever. And I was happy to be there for his last week in the Senate. So that was, it's just really pretty cool and great memories. And speaking of arriving on a boat, well, predictably, the people in in the news media and others, they don't even hide this anymore. They're just hatred of white people. And it's a thing, and it's weird how it's so acceptable. It's just as an acceptable form of bigotry that I guess because we white people have it coming or something like that. I'm trying to figure that out. I guess it's the fact they're not going to get any reparations. Some of these people, they just have to kind of like hate us forever because you're not getting any money from me. So that's, I guess, the way it's going to be. So I got to take my lumps because you can't get any cash out of me. But anyway, that and anti-Semitism, like it's weird to watch acceptable forms of bigotry in this country where you can literally have hundreds of people marching on campus that is no different at all from a Klan rally. And it's not only glossed over by the news media, it is in some ways celebrated, which is really, really sick. And so you're seeing this in full scale because I told you, and it didn't take a genius to figure this out, that once the South African refugees started coming here, and President Trump called it genocide, and somebody, well, that's not genocide. Come on. I was like, have you even paid attention to what's going on in South Africa? I mean, it is barbaric. It is brutal. They have black South African leaders who are openly calling for the deaths of white people and white farmers. People are getting their homes raided. They're being tortured. Everything. The reason why a lot of people don't know about it is because the news media never covers it. There are hardly any stories about that. And presumably because somehow the white people have it coming. That's really how it works out. I don't know whether you noticed that the detestable Episcopal Church of the United States of America has ended its relationship with the U.S. government in helping refugees come to America solely on the basis of the fact that white South African people are coming over here. So instead of having to be forced to help white South Africans, the Episcopal Church of the United States of America has decided just to quit helping refugees altogether. I mean, seriously, that's pretty bad. And I know people always like to rip on the Catholic Church and do all this kind of stuff, but the Episcopal Church has a few problems too. But yeah, rather than help the refugees from South Africa, they tore up their refugee help contract with the federal government. That's how petty and vile the Episcopal Church of the United States of America is. And ABC, of course, can always be counted on to go the left way. They're complaining about it too.
We're going to turn now to the first members of South Africa's white minority arriving in the U.S. as refugees under a policy introduced by the Trump administration.
The only time ABC News doesn't want to help minorities is when they're a white minority.
Our political correspondent Rachel Scott is here with the story. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, George. Good morning to you. Well, the Trump administration has made it virtually impossible for many refugees to come to the United States, but the president is making a special exception for a group of 59 white South Africans who have now. Of
course, do we need? I got to take a break here because we went long with Jim, and I'll come back to this. But this isn't reporting; that's editorializing. President, because there is a difference between some of the refugees that are not allowed to come here and some of the refugees that are being allowed to come here. The United States of America and President Trump should never have to apologize for how much our arms are open in this country. It's just, but we're only 10 seconds into that thing, and you can tell where they're going with this. This is Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report, on News Talk STL.
It's been a long time that we've been apart. Much too long for a man who needs love. I miss you since I've been away. Babe, wasn't easy to leave you alone. It's getting harder, don't let I go. I have the choice, I will stay.
And in the media,
1019 and 94.1.
they lying about what's going on in America. They lying about it.
News Talk STL.
ClaytonSleep.com, people. This is going to be your key to not only getting great sleep, but making your life easier, making your body healthier, and making your mind clearer. That's what a good amount of sleep will do for you. And Dr. Joe Ojal, who is a longtime supporter of free, common sense, conservative radio, is back in action supporting the Allman brand, which I totally appreciate. He's got his clinics, which are absolutely beautiful there in South County. And these are like boutique hotels. It's really super easy, comfortable to be in there. You spend the night. They're able to monitor your sleep, see what's going on with all the things that are going on with you. And then they download that info, and it will ultimately be great for you because Dr. Ojal and his team will craft a plan that will get you back in order. Insomnia, sleep apnea. You've got restless leg syndrome. Sometimes you even have kids who don't get to sleep and can't get to sleep, and you can't figure out how to get them to bed. On down the line, Dr. Ojal and his team will help you. They are just so good at what they do. They're the only group in this area really doing this kind of groundbreaking sleep healing. And so we're really super lucky to have him here. And I'm super lucky to have Joe Ojal as a sponsor of free common sense conservative radio. ClaytonSleep.com. That's ClaytonSleep.com.
Experience the true flavors of Mexico at Dos Primos, O'Fallon's premier Mexican restaurant. From sizzling fajitas to homemade caldo de pollo, every dish is crafted with the freshest ingredients and traditional recipes, all made fresh daily in our kitchen. Cool down with our famous margaritas or your favorite cerveza, while our friendly staff makes you feel like family. Dine in or carry out. Visit DosPrimosMexicanRestaurant.com or find us on North Main in O'Fallon.
Success. It's discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us that comes before all recognition. It's the best in each of us, made better by the best in all of us. Whatever success looks like to you, Stifel is invested in yours. That's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. So whether you're an advisor or an investor, choose Stifel, where success means success. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hey, News Talk STL listeners, this is Levi, CEO of Reach Reproductive Health. There was a huge gap left when the biggest pregnancy center in St. Louis had to close their doors right after Amendment 3. But by God's grace and power, Reach has been able to step into that space. We have acquired Thrive centers and are continuing operations in greater St. Louis. I have a request for you. Would you pray and consider getting to know Reach more? We are here to see babies saved and families transformed by the power of Christ. Get to know us on our Reach community website, outreachforlife.org. That's outreachforlife.org.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
Prescription drugs cut by 60, 80, maybe 90%. It certainly could happen.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. The Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Common Sense Radio. Jamie Allman here with you. Man, I haven't heard Melissa Etheridge in a long time. Is this her?
It is not, although some folks do mistakenly think it is. It's Alana Miles in Black Velvet.
Oh, Black Velvet. Okay, of course, yeah. The beat sounds like
anything that Melissa did.
Anything that she ever did, yeah.
You're right.
That's the beginning of that song sounded like a classic Melissa Etheridge cut, who I love her. So,
and even vocally, Alana Miles does sound like Melissa. You're right.
Yeah, a little bit. Although, Melissa has that throatier type of thing going on, but you're right, a little bit, yeah. So, all right, let me get to So the ABC News is you can tell by this reporter, and even the look on her face, like she's very disappointed and she's a black woman, and she's very disappointed that white people are coming here as refugees.
Hey, George, good morning to
Hey,
you. Well,
George.
the Trump administration has made it virtually impossible for many refugees to come to the United States, but the president is making a special exception for a group of 59 white South Africans who have now been granted refugee status.
Oh, what a shame. White South Africans. It's like she's looking at the camera like she's like any other harpy who's being a Karen right to your face,
And she makes the statement that the administration doesn't want refugees. No, we don't want illegal aliens. You guys don't seem to understand that in the mainstream media.
Yeah, and sometimes we have to decide in terms of like refugees from Yemen, whether or not we're going to take refugees who are from a terrorist country. I mean, that's the bottom line. We take refugees all the time here. And somebody fleeing Venezuela in brand new Nikes and a members only jacket with a brand new iPhone 16, they're not refugees. They're people coming over here. And by the way, most of the illegal immigration that these people all claim are refugee movements, it's human trafficking. That's not a refugee movement. I mean, golly, it's so annoying.
Arrived at Dulles Airport just outside of Washington, D.C. on a charter flight that was paid for by the U.S. government. The Trump administration approved their applications in just under 3 months. That is much faster than the normal process, which can take years.
Because these people are being murdered. Because these people are being murdered. We have video and we have accounts and photographs of people being butchered in their homes by black, militant, racist South Africaners. And so, yeah, that's why they're speeding it up. My goodness.
The president and his top advisor, Elon Musk, who is South African, have made allegations that white farmers in the country are being discriminated against under land reform policies. Now, South Africa's government says those policies are necessary to remedy the legacy of apartheid. And
okay, still, that's discrimination. Remedying the apartheid past is discrimination. Much like it would be here if white people were discriminated against and the excuse was, well, black people couldn't eat and drink at the same drinking fountain in 1961, and so it's necessary for us to discriminate against you now. That's absolutely indefensible as a policy by any stretch of the imagination. Totally indefensible. And yet this woman, first of all, it's not an allegation. It's the discrimination is institutionalized by her own admission and by the government's own admission. Did you hear what she said there? Here.
Can take years. The president and his top advisor, Elon Musk, who is South African, have made allegations that white farmers in the country are being discriminated against under land reform policies. Now, South Africa's government says those policies are necessary to remedy the legacy of apartheid.
Yeah. I mean, she's basically just admitting that discrimination is institutionalized in the modern government land reform as payback for what happened with apartheid. I mean, I sometimes don't even know I don't know whether she knows what she's saying or not. She certainly doesn't look like she crafts sentences on her own, but nonetheless, I mean, that just is, that's hard to believe that could be in any way, shape, or form defended.
Calls the allegations of discrimination unfounded and completely false.
Okay. By the way, it's not just the land reform stuff that is the problem. ABC knows that. It's the murders and the targeting of white South African farmers and beyond. They are being murdered and their families. Oh, crazy. Crazy world we live in. Thank goodness we are so sane. Isn't that right? Isn't that nice? St. Louis, thank goodness we're stable. All those other people are nuts. So stick with each other. It's Common Sense Radio.
The latest news.
Nothing happened. No, the attack was totally successful.
There's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president.
Because of that Afghanistan withdrawal, we have damaged our credibility.
He was texting war plans.
Nobody was texting war plans.
Whether it's formally classified or not, it is very sensitive.
He's a very good man, and he will continue to do a good job.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Springtime in St. Louis means one thing. That's right. Golf is back, baby. Sugar Creek Golf Course is located in High Ridge, just 10 minutes from 270 and Gravois. To book your tee time or to learn more about the special event and banquet facilities, simply visit sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michael's Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michael's Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. Carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, natural stone, luxury vinyl, it doesn't matter. Michael's Flooring is ready to help. 3 locations to pick from: St. Peter's, Darting Prairie, and Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloor.com. That's igotfloor.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. The president is in the Mideast. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman warmly greeted President Trump after the president landed in Riyadh. The two have signed more than a dozen agreements to increase cooperation between their government's militaries, justice departments, and cultural institutions. Prince Mohammed had already committed to some $600 billion in new Saudi investment in the U.S. The Trump administration's agreement with China to temporarily slash tariffs for 90 days offered a reprieve in the trade war. But Bankrate senior analyst Mark Hamrick says even with that current pause, tariffs remain at elevated levels.
Let's remember that as we began the year, we have entered into and still are at a condition where tariffs remain high. And so there remains a great deal of risk in this environment, principally with respect to the economy, of higher inflation, as well as slower growth and a loss of jobs. But the stepping down in the biggest part of this trade war with China is a welcome development.
Analyst Mark Hamrick. Also at townhall.com, President Trump's plan to accept a jumbo jet from Qatar not sitting well with many of his top supporters. Greg Clugston reports.
The White House is batting away ethics concerns about the gift, insisting that receiving a $400 million luxury airplane would be legal. but that hasn't stopped some of the president's biggest MAGA supporters from condemning the potential gift. Various media reports quote Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and others objecting to it and expressing alarm over receiving the jet from a country accused of financing terrorism. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The Dow dropping 177 points, the NASDAQ Composite up 302. More at townhall.com.
3 years ago, I wrapped up a run of Annie playing Daddy Warbucks at the South Carolina Children's Theater. I was about 40, 50 pounds overweight, tired, sick, fed up with the way I felt. Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. I had to do something. I scheduled my weight loss consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. And as they say, the rest is history. Just a few months, I lost over 50 pounds. I took control of my health. 3 years later, I've kept the weight off and I feel better than ever. If you are where I was, do what I did. Call PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. It'll change your life. It's fast and simple. They won't let you fail. Just give them a call at 855-696-2020 to schedule your weight loss consultation. That's 855-696-2020. 855-696-2020. Here's the best part. First 11 callers who mention the keyword healthy will get 2 free weeks added to their weight loss package. Don't wait. Call today. 855-696-2020. Mention healthy to get 2 free weeks. Or visit them at myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Well, we burned off the morning fog, but we're still kind of cloudy early in the afternoon. But as the day progresses, I think we'll see more and more sunshine and only an isolated shower or two today. The high temperature near 80 degrees this afternoon, and the wind's light out of the southeast. A normal high for today is 76 degrees. It'll be even warmer tomorrow in the mid-80s with lots of sunshine. But then some isolated thunderstorms work their way back into the forecast, along with some summer heat later this week. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Hey, Tony Colombo here, inviting you to the Bluff City Outdoors Show Fishing Pentathlon, a one-of-a-kind multi-species fishing tournament Sunday, June 8th at Carlisle Lake. There'll be several side pods, but to win, your team has to catch all 5 species of fish with the highest total weight. This unique tournament gives fishermen of all levels a chance to walk away a winner. Get more info and reserve your spot now by going to bluffcityoutdoors.com and searching tournament entry, or just go to the events tab on the Bluff City Outdoors Facebook page. The Fishing Pentathlon, brought to you by Great Harvest Bread Company in Maplewood.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson from the Morning Show here for Common Sense Rental, that is sense with a C, your all-new steel dealer in Fenton. We have got deals you just cannot miss. On April 25th, get 15% off all Echo items and get 15% off Red Max handheld products through April 6th. For Memorial Day weekend, get a 3-day rental for the price of just 1 day. By the way, we are now a Grasshopper mower dealer as well. Common Sense Rental, family-owned since 2009. We're on Gravois Road in Fenton or online at commonsenserental.com.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right. A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH, or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Freedom of speech is one of the anchors of our society.
News Talk STL. This hour of the Allman Report brought to you by Proctor Drapery Blinds and Shutters. Proctor, spelled like doctor. ProctorDrapery.com. You're listening to the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here with all of you. Stel Ponticus over there. Also with all of you. I normally don't do this, but I'm going to do this real quickly before I get on to some harder core stuff, including a blast from the past. The media has been the enemy for a long, long time, and I've got proof of that. Also, what's going on in St. Louis, man, with these marauding hyenas in the streets of St. Louis, and the police can barely get a handle on them. We'll follow up on that too.
Was that the incident over the weekend in South
Holly Hills? Yeah, but I'll get to that in just a little bit.
Okay.
So I do want to. I don't really talk to or talk about like what I eat for lunch and bitch about like things like that, because I mean, figure not some people don't go out, and so I'm not complaining, but I do have to say that this really took the cake yesterday. So I'll try to bring some food with me, because I will show houses after the show, and I don't get home until later and that kind of thing. So yesterday I got up and you know, I was hungry, and I've decided I'm not going to go to salad bars anymore because they're really outrageously expensive. Stell, do you go to salad bars ever?
Very rarely.
So sometimes I'll go to like a Schnucks or a Deerberg salad bar.
Mhm.
It's such a total, complete ripoff. I just can't do it anymore. I mean, I want to eat healthy, do that kind of thing, but I'm not paying $8 for a small salad. I'm just not doing it. I don't care how hard the people work and cutting all that crap up and everything else. I'm not paying that guy. So I'm no longer eating from salad bars. On top, so I said, well, you know, I know the girls like Chipotle. I need something fast. And well, I'll go. I usually like Qdoba, but the girls seem to like Chipotle. So I said, well, I'll go and I'll get like a quesadilla, something I could eat while I'm driving. You know, you just pick it up and eat it like a pizza or whatever. And so I'll just get a quesadilla that I can eat while I'm on the road. So I go to the Chipotle and I walk in and I want to order a quesadilla. I'm like, well, we can't do that. You have to order that online.
No kidding.
I'm like, I've got to order it on. I mean, this is like at 2:30 in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
And there's nobody in the place. And so I'm like, well, you have to order that online. And I'm like, why is that? And I was like, he goes, well, because that is it's not a frontline food, it's a backline food, so we make it back there, so you have to order it online,
like a special item that we have to actually put the food together for you as a customer.
But how hard is it to make a quesadilla? I could do that in like 30 seconds.
Yes.
I've seen people do it. And so I was like, okay. And so I leave, and I have no intention of following this guy's orders in terms of putting it through an app, or you're going to do it through our app. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And I know a place that'll make one for me, and it's Qdoba, so I'm going to find one of those. And so I decided I was going to be a Karen, and Phil Powers, Jamie has a history of eating expired food. Let me tell you something, Phil. You took the words right out of my mouth, because the quesadilla I wound up ordering from Qdoba, half of it is still in my car because I forgot to bring it into the house last night. And guess what I'm going to do when I leave here? Guess what I'm going to do, Stell, when I leave here? I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat it because I know nothing possibly could have happened to it in the last 24 hours.
If you had it wrapped and it's sitting there wrapped,
it's already cooked.
Yeah.
Nothing can happen to me. So I'm going to eat it. But anyway, so I decided I was going to become a Karen and call the Chipotle customer service line just to ask. I wanted to ask why that is the case, because I'm thinking you're really losing a lot of customers that way. I've never been to a place that had that requirement that you go to an app to order the food when I'm literally standing in front of you. There's nobody in the restaurant, and you're telling me I got to go to a computer or my phone and order the food. I can't just talk to you.
How do you deny a customer
no
the
idea.
opportunity to order the food that you've got right there?
I have no idea. I hope Chipotle goes out of business, frankly. But anyway, I call and I call, I say, and I get to the customer person who can barely speak English. And I'm like, why do you guys do that? Why? Well, can you talk slower? Because I can't understand. So basically, they do it because they don't want a bunch of people standing in line behind somebody who orders a quesadilla. I was like, it's the fastest thing you could possibly make anyway. And I go, well, they do it to, I forgot what she said. She does it to minimize lines or whatever. I go, there was nobody in the place. Why would you, why would you not do that? There's nobody in the place. And then she was like, well, I can't help you. But, well, and then can I give you a discount code or something? I'm like, no, I'm never going back to Chipotle, ever. And if the girls want Chipotle and I'm with them, then I'll let them go to Chipotle and I'll go to Qdoba, where I went to Qdoba, and it was like going into a wonderland. The lady was really super nice. I even gave her a tip because she's so nice, because normally, and they made it for me right there, and boom, I was off to the races. So I don't understand that. I mean, it must be nice to be in a situation where you could literally tell a customer to F off and do it a different way.
As a kid who grew up in the restaurant business, on behalf of everyone in the restaurant business, I apologize to you that happened to you, because that's ridiculous.
I don't think that happens very often, though.
But
still,
you know what
I mean?
the fact that it did
Chipotle.
happen, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. That's right. What are you guys talking about on the web there? Dearborg has a good one, but ugh, the price. Yeah, Julie, you're right. I mean, I like their salad bar. I really do, but it really is way too expensive. If it were like maybe $2 less, it would be great, because but I really like it, but it just is too expensive. I can't justify it, and I should be bringing food for myself from home because I have time in the morning. But the last time I tried to do that, I made a sandwich, a turkey sandwich, with a tomato on it, and it got all soggy in the car, and it tasted nasty, and I'm not prepared to do that. I'm not going to bring a lunchbox, and I'm not going to bring a tomato in a separate bag. It's eat later. Oh yeah. All right. So speaking of the news media, I want to get to this really quickly because this was great. So back in 2012, during that election, Newt Gingrich was running in the primary there. And the news media has really been awful for a long time now. It just is not, it wasn't as pervasive. So there were only a few really, truly special demons in the news media at the time. So Newt, he's asked this question by John King about his wife. Listen to how this goes. Well, wait.
Another interview with the Washington Post.
Here we go.
To ABC News, and another interview with the Washington Post, and this story has now gone viral on the internet. In it, she says that you came to her in 1999 at a time when you were having an affair. She says you asked her, sir, to enter into an open marriage. Would you like to take some time to respond to that?
No, but I will.
This is great.
I think the destructive, vicious, negative nature of much of the news media makes it harder to govern this country, harder to attract decent people to run for public office. And I am appalled that you would begin a presidential debate on a topic like that.
And by the way, that was the beginning of the debate. That was the first question in the debate. People are standing now, clapping.
Every person in here knows personal pain. Every person in here has had someone close to them go through painful things. To take an ex-wife and make it 2 days before the primary a significant question in a presidential campaign is as close to despicable as anything I can imagine. My two daughters wrote the head of ABC and made the point that it was wrong, that they should pull it. And I am frankly astounded that CNN would take trash like that and use it to open a presidential debate.
Good for him.
As you noted, Mr. Speaker, this story did not come from our network. As you also know, it is the subject of conversation on the campaign. I get your point. I take your point.
John, it was repeated by your network. You chose to start the debate with it. Don't try to blame somebody else. You and your staff chose to start this debate with us.
And that is really the how even more despicable someone like John King is, or CNN. And the reality is, in the end, when it comes to this kind of exchange, there's John King, who basically, in some way, shape, or form, is saying, well, ABC did it first, and now it's viral, and so it's a topic of conversation. That's the laziest, most irresponsible thing you could possibly do. And it just goes to show you the guttural level of cowardice that is born and bred into the news media, like John King, to sit there. And Gingrich was so on point with that in terms of telling him, dude, you repeated it. Don't try to blame somebody else for what's going on here.
Okay. Let me be quite clear. The story is false. Every personal friend I have who knew us in that period says the story was false. We offered several of them to ABC to prove it was false. They weren't interested because they would like to attack any Republican. They're attacking the governor. They're attacking me. I'm sure they'll presently get around to Senator Santorum and Congressman Paul. I am tired of the elite media protecting Barack Obama by attacking Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, that was great. And basically, it just tells you everything you need to know about the legacy of the corrupt news media. And it's no accident, and certainly not even a surprise, that this whole thing began with ABC News. And remember, I told you what a lot of these news people do is they throw a story out there, and then they're quoting each other. So you've seen, it especially happens like with the New York Times. Oh, the New York Times and the Washington Post. New York Times is reporting that blah, 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 blah. As I've said before, and I don't want you to ever forget it, that is not acceptable journalism to use as your source another journalist. It absolutely is not acceptable. And how it has become that way is beyond me. And it goes way back even then. Here's CNN deciding they're going to quote ABC as a source. You can't do that. It's not ethical in any way, shape, or form. And journalists now do it fairly routinely. I mean, they now do it just off the tip of their tongue. Oh, Politico is reporting. Fox News does it all the time. Politico is reporting. Blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not responsible journalism in any way, shape, or form. And also, by the way, you've noticed that a lot of media outlets are using Twitter posts as sources of information. Twitter posts by anonymous people. Well, Twitter is going crazy. This is going viral. The whole going viral thing is another lazy way in which journalists try to make a story bigger than it is by saying it's going viral. Again, that kind of sourcing that kind of falling back on that kind of basis of information is completely irresponsible and totally unprofessional. There's no other profession in the United States of America that would get away with simply using other people's stuff as a basis for their relevance. There's no other industry like it. No other industry. I mean, it is akin to if you were at the Coca-Cola store or something, and you decided that you were just going to sell RC at your store. It's like, well, I know it's a Coca-Cola store, but RC's cola too, so I might as well just go ahead and profit all that off that too. It's like, yeah, no, doesn't work that way. It's probably a terrible analogy, but we got a caller on the line with a Kit Bond story, huh?
Yeah, we do.
Kit Bond passing away at the age of 86. That news popping this morning. Hello, to whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
This is Mike, Jamie.
Hey, Mike.
Good to talk to you. I enjoy listening to your show.
Thank you.
I wanted to just pass along, and I was so sad to hear about Senator Bond's passing. And it reminded me, as you would say, back in the day, in 1992, I was a graduate student at St. Louis University pursuing my doctorate in public policy. And I taught, as a TA, I taught American politics, the intro course to American politics. And you might recall, at the time, Kit Bond was running for a second term in the U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
And his opponent was Harriet Wood.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Harriet, I believe, from University City.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And it was a tight and brutal race, which Kit came out on top. So anyway, I had kind of worked for him as a kind of like his campaign liaison in the city of St. Louis at the time when I was living there. And I called his campaign manager and asked him, would he be interested in coming and speaking to my class about politics, about American politics? Oh, sure, let me check. Lo and behold, Kit was very busy, but he made time to come by my class. I'll never forget this. And I had been lecturing, about American politics, the structure, the kind of the philosophy of politics, the theory of politics. And when I introduced Kit, and he got up in this auditorium to speak to this fairly large class, he basically said, everything that you've been reading in this textbook, that's okay. The theory of politics, the structure, what our representative republic is, how it's designed, that's all very important. But he said, as a representative republic, the most important thing is, as somebody who's a representative, or in my case, a senator, that I represent the people. And that is your primary focus as an elected official, should be the people. And he encouraged my class to be involved and engaged in politics. And, but it was all about constituent service, meeting people where they were. And after the class was over, he asked me, he said, Mike, would you like to come with me on a little campaign tour I'm doing out in going through Potosi and out of to Sullivan, Missouri? I said, sure, I'll be happy to. So a couple of weekends later, I joined him and his campaign manager in his van, his campaign van, with plenty of signs in the back and literature and so forth. And we were making our way through, using a map. Actually a fold-out map, no GPS back in those days.
Yeah.
To go from town to town. And he wanted me to see this for a reason. So we went, I believe we stopped in Potosi, and we went into, for instance, an assisted living center, where he walked through those doors and he was greeted like a hero by all the residents. They cheered him when he walked in. He was beloved by them, obviously.
Yeah.
We spent some time there, and he's winking at me all along during this little excursion. Like, this is what it's about: getting with the people, meeting with these elder people, elder voters, talking to them, getting down on his knees to their level, really, in wheelchairs or what have you, and listening to them.
Yeah.
And from there, we went to Sullivan, which wasn't too far away. And we pulled off on some streets, some side streets, to just do some, get out of the van, do some walking, meet the folks. And as we were going down this one small street with some kind of like small starter homes for families, we walked up to this door, and he looked back at me. I will never forget this. He looked back at me and he said, "Professor, this is politics." And he walked up, knocked on the door, and who opens the door but literally, the young mom in bare feet holding her baby. And there's Kit with his literature talking to the mom about, "Hey, I'm Kit Bond. I'm running for Senate. What do you think I could do for you? I mean, what's important to you?" And Jamie, I will never, ever forget those lessons.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
about meeting the people at their level. I mean, at their homes, whatever, at the assisted living centers, wherever you find them.
Yeah.
They're your constituents. They're the focal point of why you're in public office. And then later, I ended up running for and serving in a couple of public offices later, much later. But going door to door, all of that stuff, meeting the people where they're at.
Yeah. That
is indeed politics.
Boy, I'd say.
And that was Kit Bond through and through, the people's man. And so I'll never forget that. Again, and also being in that van with that map outfolded, Kit with a can of beer in one hand and a cigar in the other.
Yep.
Where are we going next? And he understood how to work it. He understood that politics, again, was about people. And so that was his lesson to my class, and it ultimately became a lesson for me. So God bless Kit Bond.
Yeah,
God
man.
bless him.
What a great story, Mike. And I guess, that was also, I think it was actually 1986. I remember that race and Harriet Woods. It was a hugely expensive race. I remember Jane Fonda even came in and kind of stumped for
she did.
Harriet Woods.
She did.
I mean, but nonetheless, that was before I think politics was basically hijacked by just plain old television advertising and all that kind of stuff and that money. And you still actually did have to knock on doors or in order to be successful, needed to knock on doors and meet people and everything else. And the fact that Kit Bond shared that with you is a typical example of his magnanimity and generosity with people who really you didn't have any money for him. You didn't have any of this, but he knew that you were interested. Yeah.
He did it anyway.
Yeah.
And Jamie, very interesting because I guess it was, I was in Jeff City for, I think, I want to say it was maybe for Parsons' inauguration, kind of part of that celebration several years back now. And lo and behold, in the state capitol, I found sitting on a bench, kind of just by himself, looking around and smiling, was Kit Bond.
Yeah.
And I walked up to him and I said, "Senator, how are you?" "Oh, good, good." I said, "Do you remember me?" And he said, "Well, no, not offhand." And I told him what I had done all those years ago with him. He said, "Oh, okay, yeah." And I'm still not sure whether he fully remembered it because so much went through his life.
Yeah.
That he experienced. But what was amazing was there were young people there. I mean, young people meaning college age, early 20s and so forth at this event milling around. And he would call out to them and he would say, glad to see that you're here. You're involved. Get involved. Stay involved.
Right.
And they looked at him like, wow, well, this is an older guy. Many of them might not have known who he was, but he didn't care. All he cared about was, he was happy to see young people engaging in the political system, engaging in politics. And again, politics on the good side of politics, meaning, beyond all the divisiveness, just, serving the people and, and just being involved as a citizen. So that was his underlying, I think, principle behind his motivations was service. So again, God bless him. I will never forget.
Well, man, Mike, thanks so much for sharing that with us.
Sure.
I really appreciate it, and just listening intently to it, because it really did have a profound impact on you. Obviously, as a young teacher, and ultimately getting into politics yourself. Would you mind if I asked you what those offices? Did you run for office then?
Yeah, I did. I mean, local office. I served on the Crestwood Board of Aldermen.
Nice.
Maybe about 8 or 10 years ago, I was president of the board, actually, during the difficult period when the city was trying to deal with Crestwood Plaza.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, oh man, I mean, there was a lot going on about that. And then later I served 2 terms on the Lindbergh School District School Board.
Nice.
And obviously a lot of things going on there, unfortunately, as it turned out. But I served 2 terms, also ran for state office, but didn't make it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I never say never to any future opportunity that way. And again, I would look to someone like Christopher Kit Bond, who would say, what is your inspiration for public office? And it is service and serving the people, your constituents.
Right on.
First and foremost.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you for that. And it was funny you mentioned Crestwood Plaza. Drove by there the other day, and of course, I remember it must be Memory Lane week, because I remember that the cell on Crestwood, it was Crestwood Plaza where the big stores are.
Absolutely, it was a regional attraction for people.
Yeah,
they came from far and wide to Crestwood, and there were a lot of reasons why it went into decline. Mostly because there were just, other developments going on commercially around Crestwood.
Yeah.
That kind of eroded it. And particularly in Fenton, where I now live, was Gravois Bluffs. If you're familiar with that, a huge complex out there where people who lived in Jefferson County and kind of the, further out Highway 30 and so forth, back in the day, as you would say, before Gravois Bluffs, well, where would those people go to shop? They would drive into Crestwood Plaza.
Yeah.
So those commercial, the availability of so much retail and commercial out near them now, closer to them, nipped away at Crestwood Plaza. Unfortunately,
you had West County Mall, the Galleria. Back in the day, the Galleria was only famous.
Absolutely,
it was only famous bar, really, but then it turned into the Galleria. So,
all right, absolutely, and people look back with fondness on those days.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate you.
Thank
very
you,
muct,
Jamie. Good talking with you.
Nice talking to you too. That's Mike. Yeah. Crestwood Plaza, where the big stores are. I remember that. I've got some brain issue where I'm a savant. I might remember every commercial.
You're a savant on jingles?
Yeah. Maybe I watch too much TV or something. I don't know. I'm wondering if that's the case. Well, that was a full one. That's a great story. And the Kit Bond passing away at the age of 86. At the time Mike was telling that story, during that time, Kit Bond was 47 years old. If you can believe that. So long time ago, but not too long ago, that we forget. So fantastic. This is Common Sense Radio. It's the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Coming straight on for you. You made my mind. Now I'm stronger. Now I'm coming through. Straight on for you.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Ladies and gentlemen, Window World, 314-993-1800, simply the best for less. And here is the thing, people. If you want to go ahead and call them for a free home estimate, it's 314-993-1800. They can show you how they are simply the best for less. They can show you how they are the most durable window on the planet, double paned. So they'll stand on the window for you, and it will not break. And that not only means, of course, the quality of the window and the longevity of the window, but the infallibility of its durability as it relates to an insulator. So basically having these replacement windows, a lot of people tend to replace their windows with some rickety window that, I don't know, comes off the internet or whatever. These are quality windows, and they're the best you can get at the price, and it is amazing. And these windows, I go back to insulation quality, they're basically going to keep that cool in your house without going outside, and the heat in your house without going outside. And here's the deal. They're offering 36 months, same as cash financing, with approved credit. And you got to know that these folks are absolutely ready to rock and roll for you. Their BBB rating is just absolutely outstanding. Good housekeeping seal of approval, and the Qualified Remodeler magazine sings their praises all the time. And they've only been in business for 20 years, but they basically have cornered the market and are the favored window of everybody, including the St. Louis Blues, my friends. Yes, indeed. Window World, simply the best for less. 314-993-1800. That's 314-993-1800.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Are the days of a personal doctor gone? Not at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. I'm Dr. Randy Tobler to share how our design is putting the care back into healthcare. Plain and simple, our members, not insurance companies, get our exclusive focus. That means same or next day appointments, responsive answers to your concerns, and a no-spin, big tool chest approach. It's about time you get serious time devoted to your medical needs. To learn about healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here with you. And you know what's so weird? This is weird, Stell. So I remember those days, of course, covering politics. Oh, by the way, you realize the Post-Dispatch still hasn't recorded the death of Kit Bond?
That's a bit of a shocker.
It is.
Should we call them and let them know?
I'm like, really? You're the Post-Dispatch? I mean, come on, you guys have to remember Kit Bond. Gee whiz. So anyway, I remember covering, it was hard when I was back at Channel 4, it was hard to cover politics sometimes because the people who were running the show really didn't like politics very much. And so it was kind of hard to kind of get through to these people and see if we could get a political story covered. And I'll never forget one of the producers there, God love him, was a guy named Eric Eifrig. I'll never forget. He was the producer of the show, of the 5 o'clock news or the 6 o'clock news. And I think I remember him saying, like, no one cares about politics. I'm like, really? And this was back like in early 90s or whatever. And then I said, I wonder whatever happened to Eric Eifrig. So during the break, I went on Google, put Eric Eifrig's name in there, and it turns out he was one of the contestants on Jeopardy in 2019.
Oh my.
Yeah,
How about that?
I'm like, there he is. He's like on Jeopardy 2000. It's just the weirdest, craziest world. Nice guy though, I'll tell you that. All right, so Stel, I guess were you familiar with this story? Were you into this story about the Marauders in Holly Hills and
Yes,
beyond?
I was following it over the weekend.
Oh my goodness gracious! This was just like this was unbelievable. I don't know why it's making me. I mean, this is in the Holly Hills area. This is a video taken by State Representative Steve Buzz of that area. And there had to be 100 people there, all with their cars. And the police said that there were about 50 cars that were spiked.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't confiscate one of them.
Gee. I thought that's what spikes were supposed to do.
Me too.
Incapacitate a vehicle.
Me too. And I mean, I don't want to add to, because I don't know. And I don't think there's any problem with the police in this situation. They're being attacked though for not doing enough. But I mean, they spiked 50 cars, and you guys know nowadays the fact of the matter is, tires, like I have tires on my Jeep, for instance, they don't go flat. Like I could. Well, I mean, obviously, if you have a big hole in it, maybe. But even though tires are more cheaply made now, it's not really too difficult to continue to drive on them for an extended period of time after you've got a hole in it or whatever. It's kind of crazy. So I wouldn't take that out on the police. But it is. But one thing is for sure, this stuff needs to be nipped in the bud earlier, so it doesn't kind of. I mean, surely somebody had to have called the police the minute they started seeing people congregating. And I'm not quite sure why these people are even doing this, because they did have a variety of places where they went. So they went to the Holly Hills area there, and then they went to the Burlington Coat Factory parking lot at South Kings Highway in Christie.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went.
There's a little strip mall there.
Yeah. 2nd in Shenandoah, 9th in LeBaume, Cary and Broadway, Hall and Giblin. And it's like, there's kind of a weird thing going on here. These people, apparently they weren't doing anything particularly violent. They were just being loud, noisy, whatever. And it kind of reminds me, and bear with me here, like back in during the movie American Graffiti,
mm-hmm.
and you had all the kids in their cars and all congregating and going down the streets and stuff like that.
Happened here in St. Louis. You'd have folks going through Steak and Shake and other fast food outlets, going through their parking lots.
Yeah, and this is a little, maybe a little more nefarious, But in because these people weren't like burglarizing homes or doing anything, but they were certainly menacing the neighborhood. You know, I think people who were gathering at Steak and Shake, were not necessarily menacing people as they walked by. They were just all gathering, around.
And the other situation in St. Louis Hills and in South City, you have a lot of narrow streets. So if you've got 50 or 60 vehicles cruising around on some of these streets, there's no way a resident can access the street to get home.
Yeah.
You've got them doing wheelies and everything else, laying rubber down on the road. And that's crazy.
Man, I think South City, especially that area, Holly Hills and St. Louis Hills and those areas, they've got a lot, mostly property crime and burglaries and things like that down there. Yeah, it's hard. I showed you the video a while back. I didn't show it to you, but I talked about it a while back of the my mother-in-law's Ring camera showing like 3 of these thugs coming into her backyard. And, it's only going to be a matter of time before somebody kicks down a door. And I definitely hope that doesn't happen. All right, folks. Happy Tuesday to all of you. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. We'll be back with you in just a sec.
Staring at the blue horizon, do I have a choice?
I think you're a little confused.
News, analysis, opinion.
I've got something to say and I can't hold it any longer.
101.9 and 94.1.
You won't hear the truth anywhere but here. News Talk STL.
News Talk STL.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian and his team, they're currently out at boss man Jeff Allen's house. And one of the things Jeff Allen and I were talking about that we love and that I love about O'Fallon Family Floors, and you can go to o'fallonfamilyfloors.com. They're right up there off of Highway K. And by the way, Brian and his team will come to you because they have an ability to bring a bunch of material to you and let you see it in full and living color. And so anyway, Jeff was telling me that, and by the way, they're coming to my house to fix, I have one stair in the old stairs. It's a 100-plus-year-old home, and it's collapsed, and I got to have that fixed, and Brian's going to come out there and check it out. But anyway, they're at Jeff's house, and he said the first thing they said to him when they arrived to get everything going, I think it was Monday, they said, hey, we're going to be your best friends for 4 days. And they're doing a big project, and Jeff's very excited about it, and Teresa are very excited about it. But here's the thing that I told Jeff. I said, that's one of the things I love about these guys. And Brian, who is the owner of O'Fallon Family Floors, o'fallonfamilyfloors.com, is that they're not the guys who come in, set up, leave their tools, do all their stuff, do a little work here, and then leave and go to another project someplace. They start, they go all the way to the finish. They're at your place until the job is done. They're not using half the day to go to another house or whatever. That team is your team. That team will complete the job. So again, a lot of people who do these floors, they get these flooring people in there. They're like there for like 3 weeks because they're working 2 hours a day, whatever. That's not what O'Fallon Family Floors is doing. That's really the key to the customer service quotient there at O'Fallon Family Floors. First of all, Brian is the guy who he owns the place, but he's the one who comes out to your house and does all the measuring, makes sure everything is great. The quality of their vinyl plank, laminate, hardwood, carpet, anything else you need for a beautiful custom flooring job is unmatched, and so is the variety. They have more variety than even the bigger box stores. So thank you, O'Fallon Family Floors, for supporting free, common sense, conservative radio. o'fallonfamilyfloors.com. That's o'fallonfamilyfloors.com.
Success. It's discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us that comes before all recognition. It's the best in each of us, made better by the best in all of us. Whatever success looks like to you, Stifel is invested in yours. That's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. So whether you're an advisor or an investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hey, News Talk STL listeners, this is Levi, CEO of Reach Reproductive Health. There was a huge gap left when the biggest pregnancy center in St. Louis had to close their doors right after Amendment 3. But by God's grace and power, Reach has been able to step into that space. We have acquired Thrive centers and are continuing operations in greater St. Louis. I have a request for you. Would you pray and consider getting to know Reach more? We are here to see babies saved and families transformed by the power of Christ. Get to know us on our Reach community website, outreachforlife.org. That's outreachforlife.org.
Colombo and Company.
Only a few days left in the legislative session. What are Missouri lawmakers focused on? We'll discuss it Tuesday with Rep. Justin Sparks. Plus, we'll check in with Crane Durham and Susie Moore.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. The Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Well, people, because I figure it's somewhat of my specialty, I sometimes just can't stop riding the news media like a rented mule because it's so much fun and it's so easy, but it also is illuminating because you need to know what's going on here. So I want to go back to the South Africa story and this Yamich character. She's on MSNBC, and this is their reaction to an absolute truth that President Trump talked about regarding the white South African people, the refugees coming in here.
So the Trump administration, they're saying that essentially these white South Africans assimilate better, and they're also not as much of a security risk. That's really causing a lot of people to be appalled, frankly.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's causing a lot of people to be appalled who work at MSNBC. But the fact of the matter is, it's true. Some things that are true are just true. And the fact of the matter is, the white South Africans aren't going to be coming here and raping people, murdering people, and getting $300 gift cards and squatting in rec centers in the city of Chicago. And that is just a truth. And they're going to assimilate better because they give a flying rip about the country, unlike the invaders that come over here and don't care about anything after being trafficked over here and everything else. All they care about is a paycheck. They don't even care about the American flag. How many people who come across the border are seen carrying an American flag? How many white South Africans do you see carrying an American flag when they were arriving at the airport? A ton of them. So I know the truth hurts, Yamich. But that's just the way it is.
So the Trump administration, they're saying that essentially these white South Africans assimilate better, and they're also not as much of a security risk. That's really causing a lot of people to be appalled, frankly. And I also should tell people that this violence that they're talking about that are dealing with these Afrikaners, I've been hearing from people that say there is violence in South Africa, but it's affecting everybody of every single race.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. You mean good people on both sides, Yamich? Is that what you're talking about? There are good people on both sides, including the ones butchering white people in South Africa. It's crazy. It's just too easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. I say we conduct some kind of exchange program where for every white South African, we send over some criminal Mexican or Venezuelan and send them to South Africa. Because many of the farms that the Afrikaners are abandoning, I guess, presumably, since, right, Yamich? They're all these illegal aliens are good at agriculture, right? They can just farm them down there and deal with the black murderous South Africans then. And finally, this one. This is so fun. When you have to watch ABC, for instance, basically report the truth about the Trump economy.
The Consumer Price Index shows inflation is cooling. Prices rose 0.2% in April, up slightly from March, but lower than analyst expectations. And prices are up 2.3% compared to a year ago. That's the lowest annual increase in more than 4 years.
They have to report that. And you know what that is, right? Because remember, he talked about the inflation surge and going into a depression and everything else. And ABC, well, I guess to its credit, I mean, you can't just lie all the time and avoid the facts all the time. But But that's pretty good news, and not the kind of news we were being told would be happening, right?
And Bankrate financial analyst Stephen Cates for more. Stephen, thanks for coming on. What do these numbers tell you about the state of the economy?
Well, I think this is, as you mentioned, lower than anticipated, but it really belies what we expect the long-term impacts of the tariffs to be.
Yeah, when are those going to happen? Because actually, you guys talked about long-term, but you also talked about short-term. You said the market was going to basically crash by April. You said we were going to go into a recession. You said we were going to be experiencing high inflation. None of that is happening, and now they're changing the story. Well, we said it was going to be longer term. It's like, no, I saw the headlines. You said it was going to be like right now. And remember, because then we had to respond, well, it's going to be short-term pain for long-term gain. And now they're trying to switch the story now, short-term gain, but long-term pain. Okay, we'll live in that world for a little while, shall we? Anyway, you guys have a great rest of your day. Stel Ponticus, thank you so much for everything. And thank all of you for listening to free common sense conservative radio here at News Talk STL. Colombo and company on the way. Have a blessed rest of your Tuesday.
Attention gun owners, this is your last chance to enter to win the ultimate firearms adventure, the Gun Show's annual machine gun shoot and tank ride. The big St. Charles County Gun Show in May is your final opportunity to be entered into this exclusive drawing. Experience an unforgettable